weeks.
It was at this moment Jackson knew. He fucked up.
Crack like him.
Pain, Fuji.
Oh!
What a shot!
Shit! Good day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here. Today guys, I wanted to go through 22 pointers, tips and tricks behind getting into and playing World of Warships. As of a couple days ago, World of Warships officially launched on Steam, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of you who might be watching this video right now happen to be new players that decided to give the game a go ever since it appeared on Steam, only for you guys to be a little bit confused as to why you're doing so little damage to enemy ships, all the while getting deleted straight from the face of the earth. Well, fear no more my friends, for today we're going to be going through the basics that are going to help you play World of Warships like a seasoned captain. So enough lollygagging, let's get straight into the video. Tip number 1, when you log into the game for the first time, be sure that the co-op battles mode is selected. This will put you in a match against bots, which will allow for you to learn the controls and practice leading your shots in a much friendlier, less intense environment that can be seen in live PvP matches. Tip number 2, hold your horses. Before you jump into your first match, go into the settings and then into the controls tab. Enable a collection of quality of life features like your main gun/torpedo counters, smoke borders, smoke counter, and the alternative HUD mode. This will all help to give you more information on the battlefield that is going to help you big time, both as a new player and as a veteran. Tip number 3, once you get into the match, hit the tab key to bring up the scoreboard. On the left hand side of the scoreboard, you will see a collection of callouts and their corresponding keybinds. Communication in World of Warships is paramount to winning games, so making use of these callouts is a good way to establish communications with your team early. Tip 3.5, when making use of the priority target, F3, and requesting support, F5 callouts, if you aim your cursor over a certain objective or ship, you can focus the callout to that objective or player. For example, if you use the priority target callout while aiming at an objective, it will put an order out to the team to capture that objective. If you use the request support callout while looking at an ally, it will request that the team covers that ally. You get the picture. Tip number 4, do your best to stick with your team. In World of Warships, there is such a thing as safety in numbers, unless you're playing as a destroyer, and if a couple of enemy ships see that you have separated yourself from the fleet, you're going to be picked off incredibly quickly. Tip number 5, a big mistake that many new players make in the early days of their World of Warships career is sticking by the mentality of more guns is always better. This is actually far from the case. In order to get all of your guns onto a target simultaneously, you are going to have to most likely face an enemy ship side on. This is what we call broadsiding. Broadsiding puts your ship in its most vulnerable state, as it's easiest for enemies to penetrate your armor and land more damage when you are broadsiding. Sometimes it is best to angle your armor to deflect more shots at the expense of a turret or two. Knowing when to broadside and when to not comes with practice, but the concept always applies. Tip number 6, no matter what kind of team you get stuck with, you will always have one friend on your side, the minimap. Become acquainted with it and it will serve you well. Something the minimap is very good at is helping you aim at targets. When you are lining up a shot, the angle that an enemy is moving at can be quite deceiving via the aimed view, so using the map to figure out if they are moving slightly towards or away from you can help you figure out the elevation of your shots. Tip number 7, you can modify the map to display certain stats of your ship, such as weapon ranges, detectability, and ability ranges visibly. Simply hold Control to bring up the cursor and click on the small cog icon above the map and start toggling what stats you want to be displayed. Personally, I have the primary armament, torpedo, detectability, and hydroacoustic search ranges turned on the map. Tip number 8, as you start to play your first few matches, you will start accruing different types of currency in the game. Ship XP, credits, and free XP. Ship XP is a type of experience that you can put towards researching tech for that ship or the next ship in the tech tree. Credits can be put towards modules, premium consumables, and buying new ships, whereas free XP is a pool of experience that can be used on any ship, regardless of what ship you earned the free XP with. Tip number 9. Soon you will start racking up enough XP and credits to research new ships. When in the very early stages of learning the game, I would personally recommend sticking to the cruiser class of ship. The cruisers are the most adaptable ships in the game and are by far the easiest to just pick up and use. So when still learning the basic concepts, stick to cruisers. We will talk about the difference in ship types in just a second. Tip number 10. Say you're starting to get familiar with the game and feel it's time to start proceeding down some of the tech trees. One thing that I must emphasize here is that it's not a race to reach the higher tiers of ships. Sure, they may look shinier and bigger and come with better toys, but the best thing you can do for yourself as a new player is take your time trying out as many of the low tier ships as possible to find a ship line that you like and want to pursue further. Every country has its own take on a certain class of ship, so finding one that best suits your playstyle will make your experience for the long term much more enjoyable. Tip number 11. If you find yourself at a point in the game where you want to start looking at different ship classes, you need to understand what roles they fulfill on the battlefield. As I said before, each country has its own take of a ship class, but all ships regardless of country will fall into the archetype that we're about to go through. Cruisers, also known as CAs, are the jack of all trades of the fleet. These ships are decent at many things but don't excel at many things accordingly. That said though, they are particularly useful at dealing with enemy destroyers. They typically come with decent main batteries, maneuverability and serviceable armour. They shine when it comes to AA batteries and are commonly found protecting other ships from airstrikes. Battleships, also known as BBs, are the juggernauts of the fleet. They come with unrivaled firepower, massive health pools and enough armour to make floating for these things seem unrealistic. With their size and firepower comes lacking maneuverability. Destroyers, also known as DDs, these are the assassins, the scouts, the troublemakers of a fleet. DDs come with ninja-like concealment, excellent maneuverability, and torpedo armaments that make them perfect for capturing points and taking out enemy capital ships. They also feature smokescreen launchers for covering allied ships. Aircraft carriers, also known as CVs. Want to treat World of Warships like it's an RTS? Look no further than aircraft carriers. Aircraft carriers add a new dynamic to battles with torpedo/dive bombers and fighters. They play a critical, supportive role to the rest of the fleet. Tip number 12. Something that you will notice is that there are two types of ammunition available to you in World of Warships: high explosive, HE, or armor piercing, AP. While HE has less alpha damage potential than AP, HE detonates on contact and can set fires for conditional damage, making it more reliable for scoring at least some damage on a target regardless of where you hit them. AP ignites a fuse on contact, meaning that armor values, angling, and your caliber of weapons has more of an effect on your damage output when using AP. Sometimes you can overpenetrate your target, causing very little damage. As a new player, start out by sticking to HE for a more reliable damage output as you are learning the game. Tip number 13. When making use of HE shells, your goal is to maximize your damage over time output by setting fires. With that in mind, if you set a target on fire and they don't put it out, then move on to shelling the next target. It's all about getting burning damage on as many ships as possible to maximize your impact on the match. Tip number 14. On the contrary, when making use of AP shells, your goal is to maximize your damage per shell. Try to find harsh angles on enemy ships that will be easy for your shells to penetrate. Hitting sloped or angled surfaces will result in deflections, and if your ship's guns simply aren't powerful enough to penetrate the enemy's armor, then you will get non-penetrating hits. The golden zone for AP shells can normally be found just above the waterline on an enemy ship's broadside. This is called the citadel. Successfully penetrating the citadel will cause massive damage. Tip number 15. Something that is incredibly helpful to using AP shells is going into the settings tab and then into the controls tab and turning on the detailed ribbons option. This will now give you a detailed view of whether a shell has penetrated, bounced, overpenned, or didn't pen at all, and will help for you to adjust your aim between salvos accordingly. Tip number 16. On the other side of the coin, take the time to learn your ship's armor layout in the port. This will help you to angle your ship accordingly to survive more firefights. Tip number 17. As a destroyer player, your goal is to remain as concealed as possible. By pressing the P key, you can disable your AA guns manually, making it harder for you to become detected by aircraft if they get close to you. Tip number 18. Take the time to learn the detectability stats of your ship. When you fire, the detectability range will spike, and sometimes the best thing you can do is stop firing, go back into stealth mode, and get some fresh air away from the battle. So knowing your detectability will help you figure out how much you need to retreat when need be. It will will also be displayed accordingly on the map if you followed tip 7 of this video. Tip number 19. The effectiveness of your AA guns is greatly improved when you manually target squadrons of aircraft. Sure, your AA guns will automatically engage anything that comes within range, but by selecting enemy planes manually for your AA guns to target, they are going to be a lot more effective, especially if you have multiple squadrons of planes above you. Target the planes that you feel are the most dangerous to you by control clicking on them and watch them fall out of the sky. Tip number 20. The same thing applies to secondaries. In low tiers especially, there aren't that many ships that come with decent secondaries, but if you get into a knife fight with another ship, manually targeting that ship, much like how you would target aircraft, might just give you that little extra damage output you need to win a firefight. Secondaries have the possibility to set fire, so if you have AP and your secondaries have HE, you're getting the best of both worlds. Tip number 21. Try to anticipate enemy attacks. If you're in a battleship and an enemy destroyer was briefly spotted within torpedo range, start adjusting your course in preparation for incoming torpedoes. A quick way to get sent straight to Davy Jones's locker is to sail straight into a torpedo strike, so anticipate it when possible and take the precautions needed. And tip number 22, last but not least, as a new player, do not go buying premium high-tier ships and then jump straight into a game with them expecting to do well. I can promise you that you will get fucked up really quickly. Just because you had a high-tier ship, it doesn't mean that you're going to do very, very well with it, as skill is a huge factor in the high tiers, and most other people are going to be a lot better than you anyway, so save your pennies for later down the line. And guys, on that note, that sort of wraps up everything I wanted to talk about in this World of Warships how to play beginner's guide, if you will. Guys, there's always a chance that I've missed a thing or two, so if you are an experienced World of Warships player, leave a comment in the comment section down below detailing some of the things I may have missed. A special thank you also goes out to the World of Warships community. I did post a Reddit thread basically asking for any tips or tricks that they would give to new players, and some of those tips and tricks that were in that thread made their way into this video, so a big thank you goes out to that community and their contribution towards this video. If you guys enjoyed today's video, if you learned a thing or two, a backhand of that like button would be greatly appreciated, and if you find yourself backhanding that like button and you're new to the channel, then why don't you go and backhand the subscribe button whilst you're at it to keep up to date with the content in which I'm releasing here. Once again guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, peace out, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Have a good one.